No one prepares you for the moment that roles start to reverse. One day you're asking your parents for advice about buying your first house, and then next you're wondering whether they need help managing theirs. Today, we're talking about one of the hardest financial decisions families face. When should you take over your parents' finances?
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast, where we cut through the noise and bring you real, honest conversations about investing, retirement, and building lasting wealth. No sales pitches, no gimmicks, just everything your financial advisor won't tell you.
Welcome to a Wiser Retirement Podcast. I'm Casey Smith. Today, I'm joined with Shauna Theriault, one of our superstar financial advisors. Today, we're discussing when should you take over your parents' finances. Don't forget to subscribe or like or review the podcast wherever you're listening. Let's get started. Hey, Shauna.
Morning.
This is a tough topic. I think for a lot of families, for many reasons. But I'll throw out a stat first. Among the estimated 50 million adults, 65 and older in our country, 20% have some form of cognitive impairment.
That's so scary.
Many of those individuals live alone, and they're having difficulty managing their finances, leaving them susceptible to mismanagement, according to a new study by the University of Washington.
I wonder if it's always been that high percentage cognitive impairment.
I don't
Or if
know.
it's lifestyle
I think
change.
it's we're living longer, but our minds aren't staying. Our bodies are staying, but our minds aren't staying.
Yeah.
Is what it seems. But I don't have any data to support that. What I will reference though is a podcast that we did on these scams that really focus toward adults or older adults. I did one with Michaela a little while back ago, and one of the most listened to podcasts. It kind of shows how bad people take advantage of cognitive decline. Yeah, I remember right before we got on this call, my grandfather called in and asked to go see the doctor. I care for him remotely.
Yeah.
He's about an hour and a half north of me, and he has people that stay there and help care for him during the daytime. But it reminds me of a situation. He's always had a gravel driveway, and someone walked up to the door one day and said, "Hey, we were working this project, and we have all this extra asphalt left. We can pave this driveway for you." And it's a pretty short driveway, and he goes, "Well, I mean, that's awesome. That'd be great. I mean, wow." And they paved it, and they sent him a bill for like $6,000. And so there was, of course, they said there's a contract. They're going to sue him, all this other stuff. I don't know how it got worked out. It was a long time ago. He was much younger then. He's 98 today. But that just is an example of, if someone walked to my house and said, "Hey, we have extra concrete. We will give you a free driveway," I'd be like, "Yeah, no,
No,
no, thank you.
No.
That's not a thing."
Yeah,
right?
but the scammers now are like so much, I mean, they're so much better than, I don't know if better is the right word, but convincing than they used to be. Like, so I don't know, but
they're in the business world too. I get people all the time reaching out and saying, "Oh, we can get you business loans and blah, blah, blah." And at one point in my career, I used a guy to help me source an SBA loan. And what was interesting there is we had a situation where he sent me like a bill for $20,000, and I called the bank and I was like, "Hey, this guy sourced me to you, but I figured you guys paid him a referral fee or some sort." They're like, "We don't know who this guy is. We don't know. We thought maybe he worked with you."
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, I called him and had a not so pleasant conversation for him.
So do you have cognitive impairment?
Yeah, no, maybe I have cognitive impairment. No. I did not, because he didn't get a dime out of us in the end. But,
well, statistically though, as far as like a long-term care event, normally if you have a long-term care event, it's like less than a year. Yeah. And then if you make it beyond a year, it's 2.5. But then the longer stays is the 5 to 8 years where you have cognitive impairment. So it's interesting that you say that 20% of them have some form of cognitive impairment. So I wonder if the averages will start changing for long-term care needs too.
Possibly. Mm-hmm. So why do you think this conversation is so hard to have with your parents?
Probably because there's several things. It really depends on the relationship. Like one of the questions I always ask is, how is the relationship? Are you close with your mom or your dad? Do you feel comfortable asking them? Because, it depends on what generation they're from. They're very private about money. So I feel like as time changes, I feel like the next generation coming up is not as private about money. So maybe it won't be as hard. So a lot of the older generation are very private and they didn't talk about money. So it was kind of very taboo. And so it was kind of rude to talk, for your children to talk to you about that. So I think that's one of the hardest things. And then I don't know if they were private because they're not prepared for retirement. So they don't want to talk about that, or for longer stays or, later years. But the other thing is probably that role reversal too, where it's like you're the parent and, it's kind of hard. I've seen it before where it's really hard and challenging for them to admit that they need help too.
Yeah. And it's also role reversal.
Right.
And sometimes I think our parents still see us as those teenagers that made poor decisions.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get rid of that stigma sometimes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
and say, oh, well, my son's now going to make all my decisions, financial decisions for me.
Yeah. That's why sometimes it's good to bring in a financial advisor too, because you can be like, okay, let's talk about your estate plan. Let's talk about how things are set up. So that way there is a third party helping to facilitate that. And it's not necessarily your family, but they can be present because they're you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're helpful in it.
Well, the financial advisor is not making decisions for you. So you still have to have a decision
Of
maker.
course. But I'm just saying, like, at least it's not your child telling you how it's supposed to be or what have you. So I think that
also sibling conflict.
Yeah.
So this is something that, that I have seen is, it's like everyone's friends and everyone's great. And then as soon as one sibling takes over, it's like, oh, they're trying to take all the money. They're trying to do this. And you hear stories that sometimes they actually do spend the money.
So I'll never forget something an attorney told me. And it was really interesting. So it was like, when we talk to clients, we try to tell them, whoever you choose is going to be there. It's usually better to choose one child versus multiple if they don't agree. And, typically they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but they choose the one that they feel is more financially astute, if you will.
Yeah.
And so I've been in situations where a mother declined and there was 4 children and she named one of them as financial power of attorney. And I sat at the table and, they were right in front of her, very like, we want to get this gifting and this gifting and this, it was, while she was alive. And the one that was the financial power of attorney was very slow to react, very, didn't want to do it, knew all the personalities in the room. And an attorney said to me, don't ever forget that, because all the siblings had all this animosity towards him.
Yeah.
And it was like, don't ever forget that when someone is within, they have don't have cognitive impairments, that they chose this child to help them for a reason.
Yeah.
So the other siblings, and you may be in the middle of this, or other family may be in the middle of this, but don't forget that they chose that person for a reason. And, there was a reason when they were of sound mind that they chose that person. And I was like, okay. So you just have to be patient with the family in those regards too, because it's a big role on a sibling, but the parent chose that one for a reason.
And sometimes it alienates them where the siblings don't talk anymore over things.
Yes. It's really hard.
Also too, is if you're picking someone, you want to pick someone who is also financially stable themselves.
Yes.
I see really bad things happen when you have a child who's not stable financially.
Yeah.
Take over assets and they've never seen any numbers that big before. Right. Yeah. And then sometimes you see bad things, selfish things happen in those scenarios.
I have seen that too, unfortunately.
So it is a tough conversation. It's and also too, I guess for our listeners, different cultures think of it differently too.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of respect that privacy, but also too, you want to be in a situation where there's some accountability. Like I've seen long-term care policies expire because the elderly parents just forgot to pay it.
Yeah.
And they paid it for all those years and they just forget to pay it. And then all of a sudden they're in a nursing home. It seems like it happens overnight. And then we have a policy for this, but they don't. It expired 3 years ago because they just forgot to pay it.
And they get notices and they don't do anything. And
those are, which even with our insurance agent that we refer out to, a lot of times they try to get that on auto pay.
That's a good point.
So that things like that can't happen.
That's a good point.
But I guess to back up a second, what are some warning signs that it may be time to step in?
I mean, it could be things like, not opening their mail, unanswered emails, things being shut off, payments being duplicated, obviously.
Water gets cut off. Electricity gets cut off.
I've seen that. Maybe even just confusion about money or basic accounts, but I don't know. I mean, then you have some of the things where it's like, you get the phone call or they're calling you multiple times. They don't remember they called you. That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
I've had clients call me before and say that they were driving, but they don't remember where they were going. And I was like, oh, and they're calling me.
Calling you to figure out where they were going.
Right.
You were going home. Here's the
right.
directions.
Exactly. And I was like, and I'm the financial coach. I'm close with them, but it was like, okay. So, it's excessive withdrawals or unusual withdrawals. I don't know if a child would see all those things though. So you just have to look for clues about behavior, I guess.
Yeah.
Forgetting. And sometimes people will tell you that they're worried because they know that they're starting to forget and they can see it themselves.
We had one client that her sign it was time to get a lot of help was evidently she's a very giving person by default.
Yeah.
But she was giving $10 to everyone that mailed her something asking for money, these organizations. It got so bad that she was getting mail dropped off once a week at her house in a bag by the postal service.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, it was like $10 to like thousands of organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them probably scams, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
And then it got so bad that somehow she got on somebody's list and they were calling her up, threatening her if she doesn't give more money, then they're going to come and kill her. And then she got scared and told her son, they're like, oh my gosh, like all these people are trying to get me
over $10.
No, I think it was
Seems dramatic.
probably the same organization, same bad actor.
Yeah.
Sending multiple, like they're from multiple places.
Scammer.
Yeah. And so, but yeah, it was thousands of donations that she was giving on a monthly basis. So that was obviously a sign, and that was probably too far in, honestly.
Yeah.
I think other thing, I've seen elderly clients, I would go to their house and visit with them because maybe they didn't drive anymore. And in the one case, the dining room table was just piled up with mail.
Yeah.
Just piled with mail.
And you can kind of.
Yeah. And I kind of stood there. I said, what's going on with the mail? She's like, oh, I haven't read that stuff yet. I'm like, that's been here for months. Like it's a big pile.
Yeah.
And me being me, I just sat down and I had a planning associate with me at the time. Who we had taken her back home. It was a widow's event that we had done. And so I just sat down at the table and his name was Kyle. I said, Kyle, grab a trash can. He grabs a trash can. I just start going through the mail.
Yeah. Helping her.
And she starts getting really irritated with me. I can tell, but I'm like, if no one's your family's checked out, I know this, like we got to figure this out.
Yeah.
And then of course I came across a water bill. I was like, when was the last time you paid your water bill? She's like, oh, I don't know. I think I just paid that. And I kept, it was like, she was within a couple of days of getting her water cut off according to the letters.
Yeah.
And so we had stuff we had to pay. We had tons of junk mail.
Yeah.
And, so I started visiting her like once a month until she passed away. But I had to do that every time. I would just go through the mail.
Yeah, and help her out.
Yeah, one time it was electricity. So those are things that you have to kind of insert yourself in that situation like that as a child, because they're probably not going to ask for help. Maybe mom, probably never dad.
Well, and listeners, if you're hearing this, it's like, this is, and this is what we try to instill to our clients. It's like, we want you to make these decisions before you have any cognitive issues. And so it's like, be thinking about this. Don't wait. This is really to protect you from yourself too.
Yeah.
Because really, by the time someone actually needs help or they're having memory issues, a lot of times they're like, I don't need help. And if you haven't named somebody or you put it challengingly in like your financial power of attorney that you have to have that it's springing, meaning you have to have 2 doctor's notes and whatever.
It's
a lot of
a
lot of those individuals will be like, I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm fine. I don't need help. I'm fine. And meanwhile, they're double paying bills or writing checks or leaving stuff out or not filing. I've seen so many cases where they're not filing their taxes at all.
Yeah.
Because they can't pull it all together, and then they forget, or it's just too much of a burden to pull the documents together. And so they just don't for years.
Yeah.
So then you have to catch that back up. So, that's where I try to tell clients, this is to protect you from yourself so that you're making these decisions when you're of sound mind, and, don't make it so challenging that people can't step in and help.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's other things that are, I think, more obvious. Dementia related diagnosis, hospitalization for an extended time period. I mean, there's some basic things there that you would make sure that are getting paid. If their spouse passes away, especially the one that handled all the finances, then the surviving spouse is definitely going to need someone to kind of look over their shoulder and help them, for sure. Also, let's talk about what the spectrum of support is. So we just talked about everything on our examples of someone just taking over.
Right.
But there's also just, bringing or going to meetings with their financial advisor.
Yep.
And sitting in on the meeting and just listening.
Yep.
I encourage that when I think that it's certainly necessary.
Yeah.
With the parent, even with the child, I don't even know who the child is.
Right.
But as I get older and or as they get older and I see that they're leaning more and more on everything that I say, I believe that I'm unbiased. I created an unbiased firm, but I want some checks and balances here. And so that's where I love to have the children come in. And we have to do a little convincing sometimes because they think that we just sell insurance and everything else. We don't sell any products, right? So it takes a little you have to kind of win the whole family's trust. But once you do that and they see that you're a fiduciary and you're fee only, and you're working in the best interest of the family, they everyone's kind of on the same page moving forward.
I mean, many times clients even ask me at what point should I bring in my kids? And I'm like, well, whatever you feel comfortable with. But a lot of times it's a good conversation to have. Sometimes we even start slowly where we're not even talking about balances. They just bring them in to meet us. And this is what we do for your parents or your parent. This is who we are. So that way they know. And then once they're starting maybe to want them to come in and I've had many parents that just go ahead and engage their kids, not to take over fully. They're still signing their account applications. Yeah. They're still talking to us. But copy them on the emails. Let's bring them into the meetings so they can kind of see what we do and how we manage things together as a team. And, that starts the trust and the relationship, but that's not what it's for. I mean, that's helpful, but it's really to let the parents bring someone in. So that way, the child or the future financial power of attorney knows their situation and knows what's going on.
And it may not be a best fit for everybody. I have two families that were here for a very long time until they passed away. But they had one family that one of the children was upset. He thought there'd be more money. And maybe they had plenty to cover for themselves, but I guess he was banking on this large inheritance and it wasn't as much money as he thought it was going to be. Those are, as an advisor, you don't want to reach across the table and slap him in the face, but you restrain yourself and you're like, what is wrong with you? Like, this is about your parents, it's not about you. Like, you've had your own career to go save money. You chose not to. And then I've had another situation where when one particular child found out the resources, within about a year, he was asking for his inheritance early. He booked an appointment just with me, sat in my office and said, my other siblings are not as good in good health as me. I'm not as good health as my siblings. And I believe that I should get my full share and I want mom to transfer me everything now.
That's so inappropriate, I think. I mean, of course, we don't tell them anything. We can listen to them and talk to them, but we're not going to be like, let's figure out how we can convince your parents to, I was
like, I'm pretty sure this is a parable in the Bible.
That's interesting.
So maybe not a parable. I think it was actually a story. But anyway, I was a little shocked by that, to say the least. And of course, I have to report back to mom. And she just wanted everybody to be happy. So we had to do something to appease that child.
Interesting.
Which is very frustrating from my standpoint of like, oh my gosh, like hopefully she doesn't outlive her resources. But But anyway,
well, I don't know.
Very strange,
yeah, I mean,
strange.
our job is to say like, okay, what are they wanting to do? Not the children, but the family, and it's like, how can we make this cohesive? But first and foremost, like you are our client, so
I have lots of opinions in that scenario. So what I always did before any meeting is I just simply sat there and I said, okay, I have to remove all my opinions on this, and I have to focus on facts. And so how can I give her facts for her to make her own decision? Yeah. And she would look at me and she's like, what do you think I should do? And I said, my job is to give you facts. Your job is to make the decisions. I said, if I'm making the decisions, that's putting me in a whole different role of which I'm not here to do.
Sometimes I take those times to do storytelling and say, well, I had a client once, or you know what I mean? So that way, because that's where you derive our opinions, right? It's like things that we've seen, and it's like, well, I've seen this, but I've also seen this. I can like pros and cons, and then things that I've seen throughout different relationships or family dynamics without obviously being too personal that you would know who it is. Right. And so just kind of give examples like pros and cons. It could go this way or this way, and let's just make the best decision we can. But if that's truly something they want, I try to make it work, but I can't make the numbers what they're not. And I'll tell you that obviously, but you know, there's pros and cons to everything. I mean,
I feel like in a wealth management firm, the numbers are usually pretty good.
Yeah.
From where we sit, we're not trying to help somebody, get food stamps or anything, but it's polar opposite of that. It's just dealing with the family dynamics and what people's assumption of money, which kind of goes back to podcasts we've done in the past about if you have young children or even children in their 20s, you need to take the time and educate them about your story and how those resources came about, and then help them understand how to manage money. Yeah. It's so important. We're not teaching it in schools, and families aren't doing that legacy portion of their.
We have to teach them
planning.
How to fish.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Quick check-in. Have you thought about the legacy you'll leave behind? Download 7 Steps to Leave a Financial Legacy, a free guide from Wiser Wealth Management to learn more. It's not just about wealth, it's about leaving a lasting impact. Go to wiserinvestor.com/guides to download your free guide today. Now let's jump back into the episode.
There's other areas other than just taking over. You could do monitoring. So just come to the meetings.
You can just be like you can do view only on some accounts.
View only bank accounts where you just kind of see what's happening. Obviously, you could activate your power of attorney if the document is set up for that. And then there's the taking like full financial control. So it's kind of the whole spectrum of it. So going back to, okay, we've decided that something mom or dad needs help. How do we start that conversation? I'll tell you exactly how not to start it. I've had clients that had one little hiccup, goes in for a routine surgery, and I've got 6 people hitting up my phone, every single week going, we got to take over dad's money. We got to take over dad's money. It's like, it was a routine procedure. Like he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Really everybody was just kind of fishing for, that was a large estate. Everyone was just kind of fishing for how much money was actually there. And ultimately, there was an orderly conversation about everything, and the family everybody got on the right page, but I would avoid doing it in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Right.
That's why a plan up front is important. So you're not doing it in the middle of a crisis.
Right. And don't run holidays.
Don't run, during holidays. Yeah, everybody's
don't
together.
Don't do it over Thanksgiving. Don't do it over Christmas.
No,
I mean, just let that be what that is, but conduct business on a different day.
Yeah.
We don't conduct business on Thanksgiving or Christmas.
Yeah. No. Mm-hmm. Well, and it's also like, how do you frame it too? Not saying you can't handle this anymore, or,
don't be accusatory or don't be rude.
Right. It's more of, I just want to make sure everything's in, good order. And a lot of times it's easier to start that conversation if you or a family member has gone through where they have, taken care of a family's estate. That's actually when it comes up the most. It's like people come in here and go, okay, I'm dealing with my mother's estate or my father's estate, and they did it beautifully, or it was a mess and I don't want to do this to my kids, or, I think sometimes, if they've handled something like that, it makes them think about it.
Yeah, I think something along the lines of, can we put a plan in place so I can support you if something happens unexpectedly? I think that's probably a good way to start the conversation. I would make it about planning, not about competence. No one wants to be told that they're not competent anymore. Like no one really wants to hear that. But you need to say, look, mom or dad, there's a lot of scams out there right now, and there's a lot of even perfectly registered brokers. We've seen that the client's suitable for something, which doesn't mean they should have it. Like your 75-year-old mom doesn't need to be buying annuities.
No,
right?
I'm so against annuities.
But they can sell it to them, and the next thing you know, your money is locked up. And now when they pass away, you could have a taxable event unnecessarily.
Or it's locked up for you. Yeah.
So you want to protect them from our own industry, unfortunately, especially in the sales side of our industry. They're kind of ruthless when it comes to that. Although technically, a life insurance annuity salesman now is supposed to be under a fiduciary standard.
How?
If they're operating under, if they're a registered investment advisor also.
Okay.
So that's something that has been changed, where if they're like us, but they also sell annuities, so they're not fee only, they're fee based. They're supposed to be fiduciary all the way through the relationship.
Really? Not just switch hats?
Yes. That's a kind of a new thing.
Okay. Because it used to be whatever hat they're wearing at the time, right?
Yes, correct. So that has changed. But if you go down to your local broker, a Wells Fargo, somebody like that, they're still under the suitability rules. There's no fiduciary duty there whatsoever. So that's just you have to be careful where your parents are getting advice from. Because again, I see how our clients lean into us, and now what we say is gold, especially as they get older, and we've earned that trust. These are long-term relationships.
Well, we've shown them we're not.
But the same thing can happen. These aren't evil people at broker dealers.
No.
They're people just like us who drink the company Kool-Aid and think that all these products are a solution to everything. So if you want your parents leaning into somebody like that, that's where you need to step in and say, I don't know, this is the best interest of my parents.
Right.
I would emphasize being prepared for something that could happen. I would include siblings pretty early. You want to avoid secrecy. You want to create transparency. You want to document the decisions that you're making if you're a power of attorney and why you did it. In my case, even my own family, we have a situation that might require some changes in finances for even for my own grandfather. But I want to communicate that across everybody that's affected by it.
Yeah.
To make sure that everybody's on the same page as to why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
So anyway, those are, you just want to ease into it and tell them that you're there for them. Now, if you have a black sheep in the family and they're going to cause problems, there may be no way to avoid that. Being transparent might be worse. So you kind of have to look at your situation.
Yeah.
But I would say for normal families, I would say you want to be very transparent as to why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get into legal and practical steps. So there's some essential documents, Shauna, but you're really good at talking about. So what are some essential documents that every family needs to have?
Absolutely. Yeah. Arun and I have gone through this on other shows as well, but your durable financial power of attorney is very important. A healthcare power of attorney, also known as advance directive, a will or a trust. So, or both. Just depending on if you want to avoid probate, et cetera. Beneficiary designations, making sure they're all up to date, because you can have an ironclad will, but it depends how the assets are titled and how beneficiary designations are. Yeah. Is your plan actually doing what you want it to do? Mm-hmm. That's really important to look at. And then the HIPAA authorization, but typically that's included under the healthcare power of attorney as like a standard form as well, just to get information for healthcare. Now, your people that you designate on these documents don't all have to be the same. Usually an attorney will mention, and I'm not an attorney, but they'll say with a financial power of attorney, you may want to name one just to make it simpler. Mm-hmm. Healthcare power of attorney, a lot of times you may name multiple children to help you. And usually you name spouse and then children, typically is how it works as backup. Healthcare power of attorney, even if you just name one, they usually consult each other, not always with financial. Sometimes they do. Like you said, the transparency is good, but it depends on the family dynamics. You can have somebody that is the executor of the will that's different than your financial power of attorney. And so, or trusts, et cetera. But anything that has a beneficiary designation is not going to be controlled, by the executor anyway. So that's a misnomer. They think that I'm the executor of the will. Well, if you have an IRA account that has beneficiaries listed, they have no control over that.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, just making sure all of these are in order and the titling of your assets are correct and following along with what your estate plan is saying.
Yeah.
So that's very important. And definitely have a professional look at that. Some of them are simple and it's not, very complex, but some of them can be more complex even if they seem simple. So that's important. And understanding if you have real property out of state, how that's titled, how that's passing, et cetera, because that's a little bit different as well.
With our clients as they age, I try to get them to get into like one checking, one savings, maybe a high yield savings, but that's it.
Having accounts everywhere. Yes.
Having accounts everywhere is a nightmare. You need to consolidate.
Well, if someone steps in to be financial power of attorney, they have to figure out how to manage all this. But then when they pass away, you have to go to each institution and each account and deal with each one individually. If you're grieving the loss of your spouse or your parent, that can be a lot to undertake.
I would argue that maybe it's better even to give away the high yield savings account and just keep everything in one bank.
As long as you're under FDIC, obviously.
Yes, I think that just makes everything so easy. One broker, we use Charles Schwab. Everything's at Charles Schwab.
Yeah,
you can even keep cash at Charles Schwab if you needed to.
Yeah.
So just make it easy with accounts, but have a list of accounts. That's always good. Password management plan. Your parents probably don't have a 1Password or a LastPass account. There's probably a book somewhere. Don't throw it away.
Yeah.
Right. So you want to have some type of a password management plan. And then I would set up auto pay for essential bills. Even my own mom, who's probably listening to this podcast. Hi, Mom. She, with her bills, I set up auto pay. So I have a checking account that's just for paying bills, and the money goes in there and it automatically comes out every month for all the essentials.
Yeah.
And you can monitor that. I typically look in maybe once a quarter just to make sure everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then she has a separate account that's more for her spending money. So she doesn't have to worry about running out of money.
Yeah.
If she does, then her lights are going to stay on. Right.
Right.
So it's just a real simple system of setting up bill pay. Fraud protection. This is something I haven't done with my family yet. I probably should do, but you get a point where you don't need credit anymore. You should really just turn your credit off
or freeze it. Right.
Or freeze it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freeze credit. That's going to save you a lot of trouble for identity theft. I love our clients. I would say, I put it this way. I'd work for any of our clients on the weekend. However, we have the best clients in the world because they respect my weekends.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting in a movie theater with my kids. This has been many years ago now. And the phone rings. And it's one of our widow clients. And I'm looking down at my phone going, she would not call me on a Saturday night.
Unless it was
important. So I stepped out and I answered the phone and she says, Casey, I've done something terrible. I said, what? She goes, well, this guy called me. And he says, ma'am, I'm sorry. We were just talking a minute ago and I didn't get your social security number. Can I get your social security number? And she goes, I gave it to him. And I started thinking about it. I haven't talked to anybody all day.
Oh, wow.
It was a shyster. So I was like, I sat there on this little bench outside AMC Theater going, okay, what are we going to do? And then it's like LifeLock. We're going to turn on LifeLock and then we're going to shut our credit off through LifeLock.
Yeah.
And so I signed her up for LifeLock right there and then got her credit turned off. And so nothing bad ever came of that because we reacted so fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the kind of things that maybe we could have gotten ahead of if we just told all of our clients that, hey, at a certain age, you're not buying a house anymore. You're debt free. Like, what do you even need credit for?
Freeze it.
let's just freeze it. Trusted contact on investment accounts. That's important. That's something we're doing. Any single person at our firm over the age of 65, we ask for a trusted contact. Mm-hmm. And it's not to get access to your account necessarily or make any decisions for you.
No, it's not a legal power of attorney.
Yeah. It's like, hey, Mary called me and she didn't seem quite right, or she seemed under duress, or she's been making some excessive withdrawals, which are not normal. Is she okay?
Yeah.
Can you check on her for me?
Yeah.
Just make sure everything seems okay.
Yeah.
Go visit her at her home.
Yeah.
So that's what that's for, is just to make sure that we can look out for someone and stop something bad from happening. Funny story. I had a client a long time ago that was spending a lot of money at casinos, and she was 80 years old, and she had found a boyfriend that was like 25 years younger than her. And she wasn't 80, but she's probably in her 70s.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this fraud? I started thinking, is this elder abuse? I started looking into it.
I mean, if she's lucid and she knows what she's doing.
She was perfectly lucid. And
she's having fun.
I sat there and I was like, well, if it was a 75-year-old man with a 25-year-old younger girlfriend, we'd be like, good for him, right?
Why is it always the opposite for the girls?
Why is it always opposite for the women? So we just kind of watched in awe as that whole thing kind of played itself out.
I mean, if they know what they're doing and it makes them happy, I don't know.
It didn't make her family very happy, but we did.
That's always a sticky situation. That's such a hard situation. It's like, are they lucid? I don't know.
We did some checking, and I don't know. I don't think he was full outright honestly. I mean, but who is in that situation? Didn't have a job. He's living off her money.
That's so hard.
So yeah, but I was able to get her by herself several times. I'm like, this is what's happening. Is this what you want? And she was like, absolutely.
Okay.
It's like, okay. So when do we involve professionals? So financial advisors, the good ones are probably checking in once or twice a year. Kind of see what the big picture looks like.
Yeah.
So that's healthy. An elder law attorney, I don't think we really get them involved until we have assets that we want to shelter because there's an event or we want to protect from an event.
Yeah.
So that's not like a regular.
That's a specialized field.
Yeah, it's
of
a very
attorney.
specialized thing. Obviously, your CPA should be preparing taxes for them and looking for tax deductibility of any healthcare events that come up. I will say this. We have a client here. I think she's kind of famous now, but she doesn't have any family. She doesn't have a husband passed away, had no children, and don't think she has any first nieces or nephews. They're all second or third removed. So she exhibited a lot of these signs, and us as a firm had to kind of like step in and adopt her. We've like physically moved her twice. She has some mental disabilities as well, and we've been able to care for her. But here's what I've learned in the process. There's a geriatric care. So we hired a lady, and she goes to all the doctor's appointments with this client, and she makes sure that assisted living is giving the right meds. She coordinates the meds between the psychiatrist and the primary care physician.
Yeah.
So there's people out there that will do this for you for an hourly rate. It's $152 an hour is what most of these firms or groups charge. And these are licensed nurses that have additional certifications, and they're like the gatekeepers for everything.
This is like a care manager type situation.
It's care manager. Yeah. Not a person who sits in a house with her.
Right.
That's so like the visiting angels people, they can't really do anything nurse wise. They can't even touch a catheter. They're just there to sit and give companionship.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then I found a group that does bill pay. Okay. So now this group makes sure they're bonded, insured. This lady here happens to be a CPA. Most of them I found were not. You don't need to be a CPA to do this. But she has access.
It's another layer of background checks if they're CPA, I suppose.
Yeah. And she charges a little more for it too. So some people may not want to pay for that additional care, I guess. But she monitors the bills and the income and makes sure everything gets paid. So there are services out there like these two that can make your job a whole lot easier if you're caring for a non-family member or a distant family member.
As a power of attorney.
Yeah, as a power of attorney. Exactly.
That's interesting.
So, and then what we do is coordinate with her financial power of attorney, and very long story, but I ended up being the healthcare power of attorney because people bowed out. I was like deep down the list.
Yeah.
And people were like, no, you don't want to do it. So I kind of watch over her health and and with his care manager, making sure that she's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But the financial stuff is the day-to-day stuff is completely out of our hands. And so now there's checks and balances. We have a third party that has access to her funds. We don't, other than managing assets. Right.
Yeah.
And then we have meetings and making sure that we're not going to run out of money. So there's lots of programs out there that make all this stuff a lot easier if you're a busy professional and don't have the time to figure these things out.
Yeah. That's good to know for sure.
So, just quickly, some emotional considerations. You got to expect resistance when you do this. You've got to try to preserve their dignity where possible. The only thing worse than this is probably taking away somebody's car who won't give up their car. Honestly, focus on being collaborative with them. Don't just walk in and say, "I'm taking over," and you're nobody now. Like,
include them in the decisions.
They've been independent probably their whole lives, and you have to understand that it's going to be very humbling if you're sitting on the other side of that. When shouldn't you take over? If you just see minor mistakes, but there's really no pattern to that, I probably wouldn't worry. They accidentally paid the electric bill twice, or they missed it one time, 1 month, and oh my gosh, one time. There's probably not a real issue there.
Yeah.
Temporary health issues. So they have surgery. They're just recovering. That might, honestly, they might approach you and say, "Hey, I was thinking while I was out." Sibling power struggles. Sometimes maybe it's not worth it if it's going to be an all-out war with a sibling. So you kind of have to think. You have to think through that. That might be where you get professional help.
Yeah.
Who can handle things like that. And also your own financial instability. So if you're having trouble paying your own bills, you probably should find someone else in the family to help if there is someone. And the reason why I say that is we're all human. And so if we're struggling and we need to go get an extra $1, maybe you pull it from mom's this month and you'll pay her back. Maybe pull it mom's next month. So you can skip that whole temptation by just focusing on you, and then let someone else step in and take care of the parents.
Well, let's not also forget you're a fiduciary legally, and you can be sued if you're doing the wrong thing too.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
Very good point.
I mean, if you're not doing the right thing, the others can sue you if you're not acting as a fiduciary in that capacity.
So look for patterns, not one-off mistakes. Start the conversation early. Use legal protections proactively. Gradual support is typically best. Help them keep their dignity. Keep transparency front and center. And I think the call to action here is while they're still lucid and everything's fine, do we have all those legal documents in place that you discussed? Are they current? Do they name people that aren't with us anymore? As far as powers of attorney and things of that nature that would create a problem.
And when clients ask
or have situations changed.
Yeah. And when clients ask, how do I have this conversation with my parents, or they have this situation, I'm like, tell me about it. And I will help direct them on how to talk about it. So if you have that situation, you have an advisor, you need an advisor, typically I will help direct how to have that conversation, and maybe empower them a little bit to feel more confident to have that conversation too. So you may want to ask your own advisor or find an advisor that can help you as well.
Yep. We have a few other podcasts related to this. Episode 313, how can you help your parents plan financially for the future? That's a great one that kind of dives a little more deeply into the estate planning side. And then we did this episode a long time ago, episode 189, Take Control of Finances for Your Aging Parents. Is kind of a little bit of a repeat of this one. We have a couple of videos we popped up as well, Social Security workshop scams, and also what does retirement look like for special needs parents? So that is that is all linked into our show notes. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to us. If you want to book an appointment with one of our financial advisors, you can do so at wiserinvestor.com. Thank you, Shauna.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to a Wiser Retirement podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. That way you don't miss any new episodes. We'd also appreciate if you could leave a rating and review. If you have any questions about anything that was discussed today, head to wiserinvestor.com and reach out. This podcast is strictly for informational purposes only and is not to be considered as investment advice or solicitation to buy or sell any financial products, securities, digital assets, or any other investment vehicles, or a basis to make any financial decisions. Wiser Wealth Management Incorporated is a registered investor advisor with the SEC. The host and/or guests may personally own securities, digital assets, or other investment vehicles mentioned on this podcast. Neither the host nor guests of the show are compensated for their participation, and no referral fees are paid to or received by any host or guest for clients, listeners, or similar interests. Investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor, tax professional, insurance professional, and/or legal professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. Past performance is not indicative of future performance.